The people on this tape are community volunteers or students and staff from the Salinas Adult School who have volunteered their time. Some of their names and personal information has been changed to protect their privacy and to help make the video easy to understand. The INS Citizenship Interview usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Most of the questions you will be asked are taken from the 10-page N400 citizenship application form that you mailed in. You should keep a copy, take it to your citizenship class, and study it carefully. The reason that INS asks so many personal questions is first, to make sure you meet all of the eligibility requirements. Second, to see if you can understand and speak basic English. Third, to find out if there are any changes since you mailed your citizenship application. And fourth, to see if you are telling the truth. Additionally, you will be asked from 3 to 25 questions from the INS list of 100 history and government questions. You may also be asked to read one or more sentences or questions in English. Finally, you will be asked to write 1 or 2 sentences of dictation. In some INS offices, you are asked personal questions first. In others, you are asked government and history questions first. Although the interview is oral, you don't need to speak English perfectly in order to pass your test. Also, if you have any disability such as vision or hearing problems, you may be entitled to request an accommodation or disability waiver. There are some exceptions to the English requirement. If you are over 50 and have had your green card for more than 20 years, or if you are over 55 and have had your green card for more than 15 years, you can ask to be interviewed in your first language. Also, if you are over 65 and have been a permanent resident for more than 20 years, the INS will select 10 questions from a list of only 25 history and government questions, and you must answer 6 correctly. The interview may take longer than 10 or 15 minutes if any of these things apply to you. You want to change your name. You were arrested. You are divorced. You or your spouse have been married before. Mistakes are found on your N400 form. You have made changes in your address, work, or family situation. Other information you provided on your N400 application form has changed. To pass your INS interview for citizenship, you need to be prepared to answer all of the questions from the N400 form and any related questions. After going through an airport-style security checkpoint, you will be waiting to be called by an INS examiner from a waiting area. Before we start with the interview, let's make sure you can make it down the hall. To review, an INS officer will call your name and you must stand and go with him or her. The officer may not pronounce your name correctly, so you should be listening carefully. Usually he or she will say, "Follow me," or "Come with me." But sometimes the officer just starts off to his or her office. You are expected to follow. Sometimes there will be conversation questions in the hallway before you get to the office. They may include questions about everyday topics such as the weather, how you got here today, or why you are here. There may be no questions or just, "How are you today?" It is important to remember that they are testing your ability to speak and understand English. You may be asked to open or close the door, to take off your hat, to put your papers on the chair on the left, and so on. In most cases, you will be asked to remain standing and raise your right hand to promise to tell the truth. You will be asked to show your green card and your driver's license. You could be asked to show your passport and/or your Social Security card. Have these cards ready to take out. Remember, if you don't understand a question, ask the examiner to please repeat the question. Now we will go through all of the sections of the N400 citizenship application: personal information, residence, work, absences, trips out of the United States, family, membership and moral character, taxes and arrests, and allegiance to the United States. First, you will hear 2 or 3 people responding to questions from these areas. Then it will be your turn. Practice what you will say if you are asked any of our questions. Okay, now it's your turn to answer some questions. Are you ready? What is your full name? Do you want to change your name? Do you still have the same address? How long have you lived at your current address? What is your date of birth? What is your phone number with the area code? When were you admitted as a lawful permanent resident? Now let's look at residence questions. You were asked to list on the N400 application all of your addresses during the last 5 years. Here are 2 examples of questions you might be asked. Now it's your turn to answer some questions. Are you ready? What is your current address? Is that a house or apartment? How long have you lived there? What was your previous address? Do you intend to live permanently in the United States? Now it's time to prepare for the work section of the N400 application. If you have changed jobs or started to work after mailing in your N400, take a check stub with you so the INS examiner can write down the name and address of your new employer. Be prepared to tell the INS the date you started work at the new company. If you are not working, be prepared to discuss your source of income and to answer questions about your husband or wife's employment. You may also be asked about receiving general assistance or other forms of welfare. You are entitled to receive any government assistance that you are eligible for as long as you have not given any false information in order to obtain benefits. Here are 3 sample dialogues.
Now is your turn to answer some questions. Are you ready? Do you still work for the same company? Are you working now? What is the name of your employer? How long have you worked there? What do you do? Very good.
Okay, let's try some other work questions. Are you working now? Does your spouse work? What kind of work does he or she do? Who was your last employer? How long did you work there? Very good. The next section is about your absences out of the United States. Although the emphasis on the current N400 application is on trips during the last 5 years, you are asked to list every absence of 24 hours or more since you got your green card. During the interview, you will probably be asked to give the date of your last trip, your most recent absence. You should know the exact day you left and the exact day you returned. If your application was not filled out correctly, you can get a copy of page 4 of the new N400 and fill it out with all of the correct information and include any new trips you made after filling out the application form. That way you can hand the list to the INS examiner when he or she asks you about your trips. Warning: During the last 5 years, you cannot have left for more than 6 months on any one trip, and you cannot have left for a total of more than 30 months over those 5 years. More importantly, you should never have left the U.S. for more than a year after getting your green card. If you did leave for more than a year and the INS finds out, you may be denied your citizenship, and you run the risk of being deported because you violated your permanent resident status agreement with the INS. If you have any possible problems, consult an immigration attorney or nonprofit legal aid group before applying, and especially before going to your interview. In California, you can contact Catholic Charities or California Rural Legal Assistance for help. Let's hear 2 examples of questions about your trips out of the United States.
Now is your turn to answer some questions. Are you ready? How many times have you been out of the United States since you got your alien registration card? Since you mailed your application for citizenship, have you been out of the United States? When was the last time you left the country? When did you return? What was the reason for your trip? Have you ever been out of the United States for more than 6 months? Very good.
The next section has questions about your family. Part 8 of the N400 has questions about your husband or wife, and Part 9 of the N400 has questions about your children. If you are single and have no children, you will only have 1 or 2 questions. When asking about your children, they are referring to all children, including those that have died, adopted children, and children living anywhere in the world. If you or your spouse have been married more than 1 time, you need to fill out Section F and/or G. At the time of the interview, you should bring your divorce certificate and the marriage certificate to your present spouse. You should be prepared to answer questions about your past and present spouses. If you married someone or had children with someone before their divorce was final, a simple and truthful explanation may be all you need, but you should consult an attorney.
Now is your turn to answer some questions. Are you ready? What is your marital status? How many times have you been married? How many children do you have? Were they born in the United States? Do they live with you? Is your husband or wife a permanent resident? Very good.
Now we come to the section involving memberships and moral character. If you answer yes to any of these questions, you should talk to a lawyer before mailing your application. Especially serious are questions about helping illegal aliens to cross the border into the U.S., selling or smuggling drugs, and deportation. Page 8 of the N400 has a lot of difficult vocabulary. Although it's easy to practice saying "no, I haven't" to most of Part 10, the INS examiner wants to make sure that you understand all of the questions and that you are not just guessing the answer. Ask your teacher, a friend, or a family member to translate these questions into your language if you don't completely understand them. That way you will be better prepared to answer them. Also, it's important to know that all of these questions are routine questions. Sometimes students take them very personally, especially the question about prostitution. Remember, they can ask any and every question that you answered on the N400 application form. Occasionally, the INS examiner will ask you to explain a word to them. Be prepared to do so. Let's look at one example.
Have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
No, I have not.
Have you ever been a prostitute or procured anyone for prostitution?
No.
Have you ever sold or smuggled controlled substances, illegal drugs, or narcotics?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever been married to more than one person at the same time?
No.
Have you ever gambled illegally or received income from illegal gambling?
No, I have not.
Have you ever given any false or misleading testimony to any government official while applying for any immigration benefit or to prevent deportation or removal?
No, I have not.
Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen?
Excuse me?
Have you ever told anyone that you are a U.S. citizen?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever voted in the United States?
No, I have not.
Did you vote in Turkey?
Yes, I have.
Are you going to vote when you become a citizen?
Yes, I will.
Very good.
Have you ever persecuted any person because of race, religion, national origin, membership, or political opinion?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever been a member or been associated with a terrorist organization?
No.
Have you ever advocated the overthrow of any government by force or violence?
No.
Have you ever helped anyone enter or try to enter the United States illegally?
No.
Have you ever been associated in any way with the Nazi government of Germany?
No.
Have you ever been declared legally incompetent or been confined to a mental institution within the last 5 years?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever been deported?
No.
Did you register with a selective service?
What was it?
Selective service, it's our draft board.
No, I was too old.
Okay. Are you a member of any organization or club?
Yes, I am.
What group do you belong to?
Team Stars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's your turn to answer some questions. Are you ready? Have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? Have you ever been a habitual drunkard or had problems with alcohol? Have you ever been a trafficker in narcotic drugs or marijuana? Have you ever been a prostitute or procured anyone for prostitution? Have you ever claimed in writing or in any other way to be a U.S. citizen? Have you ever helped an alien to enter the U.S. illegally? Have you ever voted in the United States? Are you going to vote when you become a citizen? That's it. Very good. One of the questions you just heard was about deportation. The INS requests your original green card file when you submit your application, and they have it on the desk during your interview. If you lie about being deported, you may fail the interview and have to go to a second interview before INS can determine if you pass your test. You could also be denied your citizenship if you lie under oath about being deported. In one of the last dialogues, you heard a question about selective service. There are a few questions about military service that will only be asked to male applicants. If you are a man and when you got your green card, you were between 18 and 26 years old, you should have registered with the selective service. If you got your permanent residency card after you were 26, you can say, I was too old. If you were told that it was your responsibility to register and you signed an agreement that you would register during your permanent residency process and you didn't register, this could be a problem. You should talk to an immigration attorney or someone from a nonprofit immigration assistance agency. Now we will look at some questions related to taxes and arrests. If you didn't pay your taxes 1 year or more than 1 year and need to do so, you should pay before going to your interview and bring proof that you have paid or have an agreement with the IRS to pay money each month. If you have been arrested at any time in the United States for any reason, we strongly recommend that you speak to a lawyer before mailing your N-400 application for citizenship. Additionally, you will need to go to the court where your hearing took place or where you were ordered to pay a fine or perform community service and get what is called the disposition of the case. This official court document includes the nature of the offense and the outcome of the case. You cannot get an acceptable document from the DMV, the police, the sheriff, or the highway patrol. The paper must come from the court. If you don't take it to the interview or send it with your N-400 application, you will be asked to bring it within a short period of time and your case will be delayed. This includes false arrests in which you did nothing wrong, but the police confused you with another person. You were still arrested and you need to tell the truth. When your fingerprints are taken by the INS, they go to the FBI in Washington, D.C., where they have a complete record of any problems you have had with the police while in the United States. Applicants have been denied citizenship because they lied about their arrest under oath or did not provide all of the information the INS asked for. Telling the truth is extremely important to the INS. If you have been arrested, you may be asked questions such as when, where, the offense, to explain what happened, and to tell the outcome of the case. Practice these questions with your teacher, friend, or family member. For legal advice and help with your case, contact a nonprofit immigration assistance agency or an immigration attorney. You can contact the INS for a list of the Board of Immigration Appeals accredited agencies. Now it's your turn. Are you ready? Do you believe in the U.S. Constitution? What is the U.S. Constitution? Do you believe in our form of government? What form of government do we have? If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States? Do you know what an oath is? Very good. Congratulations, you have finished answering questions related to the N-400 application form. Now we will give you an opportunity to answer some of the 100 INS government and history questions that may be asked during the interview. This video only gives you 30 of the 96 or 100 official INS government and history questions. Be sure to get a complete list and study all of the questions before you go to the interview. Try to give the answer yourself before the applicant speaks. In the first practice dialogue, the INS gives the applicant a list of questions to read and then give an answer to. In the other practice dialogues, the INS asks the questions orally and the applicant gives an answer. Finally, we will ask you to write some sentences. The INS usually asks the applicant to write one sentence, but in some cases you will be asked to write 2 sentences. Listen carefully. In order to pass your interview, you have to show that you can speak, understand, read, and write English. You also have to show knowledge of U.S. history and government. Finally, you have to have a good moral character. If you fail your test because you couldn't speak or understand enough English, or you weren't able to answer the history and government questions, or you didn't write the dictated sentence correctly, you will be given a second chance. You will only be tested on the section or sections you failed. Normally, the second interview is scheduled within 4 months of the first one, so you will have to study hard during this time. appeals can be made and a third opportunity is often granted. Otherwise, the applicant has to start all over and file a new application and pay a new application fee. Some final comments. In the dialogues we have presented, we have modeled short answers such as yes I do, no I haven't, and others. During the interview, you will probably be very nervous. You can respond yes or no if the short answers are difficult for you. If you can give a short answer like yes I am, it shows you know English and it's more formal and shows respect to the listener. You could also say yes sir or yes ma'am. Another thing we haven't talked about is your appearance. Think of your interview as an interview for the job you have always dreamed of. Men should wear a suit and tie, and women should wear dressy clothes. This sends the message that U.S. citizenship is really important to you, and this day is one of the most important days of your life. Some applicants have arrived at the INS office in dirty work clothes. This creates a really bad impression. If citizenship means a lot to you, plan to wear something really nice. Although most of the INS examiners are friendly and fair, sometimes applicants have a bad experience with a particular examiner. If you are being treated rudely, INS wants you to request to speak to a supervisor at that moment. You would say, "Excuse me, I need to speak to a supervisor." When the supervisor comes, you can say, "I would like to have a different examiner, please." It takes a lot of courage, but not only do you benefit, but you are helping all of the other applicants that come after you because now the supervisor knows that a particular examiner is rude to the applicants. Have a friend, classmate, or family member stay in the waiting area and be ready to support you if you have a bad experience. Finally, after studying hard and practicing with many different people, a really important thing to do is to remember to breathe and visualize yourself being congratulated for passing your test. Being relaxed and thinking positively will really help you. Remember that it is okay to miss one or two questions. Try to get a good night's sleep and ask for support from the person that goes with you to your interview. Good luck! We know you can do it.